for black humor. First, just a quick word. I loved some of the poems picking up on the theme departures. Really made it that you people taking the trouble to come up with those responses. So I'll try to to kind of rise to the challenge there. The idea of departures, I put in together a series of poems, and it started off from a poetry prompt with Kemlyn Back with her online poetry group, Between the Lines, and so many references to Japanese film Departures, which is about a young guy who's loses his job in an orchestra in Tokyo and has to go back to his hometown, rural town, with his wife, and the only job he can find is with as an encoffiner to a Japanese trade where they prepare the body for funeral. And in the Japanese culture, it's big taboo about anything or anybody connected with death. But the whole point about it is where they prepare it in front of the family and they make up the deceased to make them look as beautiful or as young as people remember them. And I would recommend you watch it. And with one trigger warning that you have at least two boxes of tissues with you while you're watching it, because you will end up blubbering through this film. Because I mean, because I cried and I just watched it this afternoon. This is to recall some of the ideas and themes. You will cry during this film. It's so touching, but it's such a beautiful film, and it deals with what for a lot of people is something that they keep at arm's length. Not to say my poems, some of them deal with that. I mean, we've had a few losses this year. I personally have lost my brother and a couple of friends, Genevieve in mind as well. But there is, I was thinking, with departures also on the other side of departures, there's arrivals. Something goes, something comes, something arrives, something old, something new. So I'll just share screen, I'll shut up now and just read the poems. Okay, whoops, there. Oh, there we go. Right. Between the lines, the birds did not sing today, and I sensed an empty space left unfilled. But in my mind I hear them still, a faded memory now, the one that lingers to fill the interstices left between the lines. The birds did not sing today, and I am left to wonder what music will replace their song, and ponder what remains but the shivering whisper of falling leaves, the cold sigh of autumnal chill. The next one, this is about the stone circles stricken. I wrote this, I was up in Aberdeenshire visiting King Hall. I was going through a very bad time, um, close to a nervous breakdown, I think, at the time. And I found this place outside of Stricken, an old stone circle. And I remember standing there in the sunshine and looking at the cornfields blowing in the breeze, and suddenly felt this sort of sense of relief. But here's the poem. Standing by the stone circle where James Boswell had once stood, there seems a false sense of time passing. No plaques mark the occasion, no inscribed foundation stone. Disturbed by an errant tenant farmer in the early 1800s, it was apparently rebuilt, but in the wrong place, classed as a folly, and the four extant stones present in Boswell's time supplemented to make six, a more rounded number. In the 1950s, it had become a tea garden for TB patients, convalescing at the nearby stricken house, built in the neo-classical style, and which has itself become an abandoned marker of changing times. hollowed out and roofless, just another set of standing stones. But now, with wild accelerating pace, laying waste to man's grandiloquent follies of grandeur and delusion, building monuments to pass the time, leaving their stamp temporarily on the slowly evolving landscape. But as I lay my hand on the sun-warmed flanker next to its recumbent neighbour, I sense in my own errant wild imagination a strange evocation rising up in me through those ancient stones, and so I take in its offering gladly of time extending, moving through me in continuum. Okay, move on. Jazz riffs number 4, or Bookend Blues. I hope if anyone's surfer kind of there's a couple of surfer references at the end of the poem, which I took in when I did a bit of an edit. I kind of read up about that, make it a little bit more, I don't know, a bit more in. So yeah, Bookend Blues. The fag end of another year, bookending one more cycle. Look back, move forward, keep on going on to the next. Going where? To what end in view? Something old, something new, half-forgotten truths, wrapped up in Gnostic aphorisms, a borrowed life on permanent leasehold, feeling kind of blue. The man still holds all the cards. See the future, see it unfold right in front of you. And in the interim, someone died. Another one came into the world. A heart was broken. A new one was reborn and anointed by love and the perennial turning of the season, stuck on an elliptical fairground ride, the cosmic firework display, all laid on for free. It's a whirling vortex, faster than the speed of sound, sonic booms blasting us into orbit. So hang on tight, hold on by your fingernails for a mind-shaking ride into a dark future. Only hope lights up the way ahead. Let's pray it's a better one than the one before. Paint on a new face. Hang on in there to catch the next wave, to carry you aloft like a maverick, riding the tube like a bullet from the barrel. Okay, so this is the title poem, if you like, Departures. It's in two parts. One, and this is using repertoire. Oh, a bit of dry throat. This is taking references from that film, Departures, that I mentioned earlier. The wild geese take flight, wings outspread, glinting white, rising up on pillows of lapis blue skies, rinsed by the autumnal rays of departing sun. See them banking, raised high on crescendos of summer's parting ways. Say your farewells, speak softly now, though they soon will return again. But you may not be there to greet them the next time they are resting on the reed banks by the placid waters of wetlands, flanked by their helm of purpled mists of mountain tops. And take care of this pebble that's being passed on to you to hold inside your hollowed fist. Its smooth edges wear the insignia of borrowed time that collects its own commission with added interest due. Hold to it tightly, 'tis but a lien to keep in lieu with memory until the debt has been discharged, remains owed, till the gateway has been opened wide enough for a lost soul to pass through. Say your goodbyes now, but remember to let go gently. Your tears will ease the passage, taking them to the next stage on the way, to ready yourself for your own departure. as the wild geese spread their wings to set out on that long migration one more time around again. And the second part is a sonnet, in fact. Remember them well, the very days and all the long nights of your long days. Keep it in mind that they who are gone are with you in company still, if only in that smallest chamber of memory that you keep as a holy sepulchre for the immurement of those treasured remains for your own personal rights of remembrance. Hold them, keep them in mind with each day that passes, for fear they may shrivel and die, if left to hang on the vine of forgetfulness, and keep the soil that holds and nurtures them well fed. For though the flesh falls from the bone, the fruit still remains as tributes for the dead. Okay, walking with grief. This is a friend from a friend in Hong Kong. She lost someone very close to her during the COVID spell. And I remember her posting about when she was grieving. She was in a small park in Kowloon, walking around surrounded by the trees. And so I tried to visualize that and try to write something getting into her mind, perhaps. So it's walking with grief. The leaves whisper their condolences. The tree branches sigh and groan like hired mourners, paying their respects while keeping their distance in their polite, respectful manner. The benches, co-opted to stand sentinel, arrange themselves on the periphery of this isolated park, keeping their counsel with straight-faced grimaces. They conspire to show no visible emotion, and all that's left for me is to walk and walk, lost in my quiet inner grief, alone and lonely as this silent oasis of green. The next one is more personal. It's a poem I wrote following when my father died. My mother had died a few years earlier, and we were clearing the house out. I remember moving it and getting all the bagging stuff up and taking it down the dump. And it was so frenetic. I got to the point where I couldn't stay in the house. I had to go walking around. And then when I finished it, I went, drove off in the car doing about 90 up the A591, with the windows open and the wind blowing through from the slipstream just to clear my head. There's a photograph there that I took out of the window. And so there's Siamese cats there, which I sort of noticed in the garden. This is the old garden up in Ulverston in Cumbria. And sort of thinking how apt they're standing sentinel. So Green Morning is the title of the poem. The patchwork of quilted green fits the frame of grimy window pane that overlooks a now neglected garden, once tended with gentle care, now overgrown and careworn, overgrown too with memories of past lives, reminders of former summers of faded sunshine, where now the patina of decay prevails, and leaves are tinged with rusty brown discoloration. A stray Siamese sits statuesque within a ring of mottled green on a plinth of grainy paving, once laid by familiar, gnarled old hands, since laid to rest. Beyond the boundary of garden wall rise silhouetted, serrated shapes of conifers, dappled with the delicate hue of deciduous, while overhead the roundel of summer sun dissolves away the gentle shade of morning. The windows, opened wide to ventilate the stale dead air, drink in their fill of this fresh dew-tinged atmosphere. Old memories do not fade so easily, however, and I feel an urge to escape the scene to take a long drive, window open to the onrush of slipstream, blowing away the cobwebs in my head that would not succumb to the violent hoovering of those musty remnants left to accumulate with age's decrepitude. This exorcism completed, I returned feeling cleansed. The garden shaded now with darker greens, and noting that the solitary Siamese has moved on to find a new patch, warm under the burnished arc of wheeling sun. Okay, one summer in Halifax. This is meeting a friend from Hong Kong. So she's just done a stint at the Edinburgh Fringe. That August bank holiday weekend, you invited me up there to visit as you stayed over with an old friend after your stint playing the Edinburgh Fringe. That time we walked across the tops over Beacon Hill and down the other side to Chipperton Hall, and all I brought was strawberries to feast on in that heat of high summer, where the shade gave slight relief. The refreshing bite of sweet summer fruit was all you would want to eat, the sun beating down so heavy. And I remember blowing on that candy floss seed ball with a wish to keep up my sleeves, and you told me then you had wished the same as me, that someday we'd meet up again. Okay, planting out, excuse me. There's one written from Cafe Nero. It's got a bit of a more happy sort of feel to it, I think I heard. The council workmen look rough and ready in their soiled yellow bibs, but they employ a gentle touch, planting out the borders around the maple trees, standing guardian in front of my favourite stopping off point in town at Cafe Nero. The fag end of February dragging its feet, you can sense a change in the air. The spring lurks shyly at the edges of the turning calendar, but even with this lapsed sunshine sporting a fresh sense of vigour, the frigid air scolds me with a curt reminder that winter chills still linger, and precautionary measures remain a necessary state of affairs. And me, wrapped in my tartan scarf, suede gloves at the ready, Blackgray's streak is taking on a brighter sheen, like a snake that's just plucked off its second-hand skin, a foretaste of an Easter resurrection. Meanwhile, here in Cafe Nero, we look forward to an added splash of colour emerging from this planting out, reviving expectations of renewal as we sit patiently over our coffees, waiting on with bated breath. And this is getting towards the last section here. This is a quartet for a friend. These are the full poems I wrote over a period of about 5 or 6 months as I was seeing this friend visibly sort of fading in front of me each time we met in Cafe Nero. So one, untethered. You hung suspended in life, detached from familial ties, taken into care, a drifter, doing odd jobs, even one time running a coffee shop. But with your luck, that folded in the end on the wrong side of a landlord acting in bad faith. But you shared, excuse me, a loopy, surreal sense of humour, a love for music, jazz and blues, all of the good stuff, a passion we had in common. I remember once upstairs in Hiku's among the slumbering keyboards as you played some cool jazz licks and phrases across their respective keys. I was impressed, having never heard you play before, but I look back now trying to figure out when I first became aware that your life was untethering, slipping away into the shadows where we all finally see out our earthly days. 2. When winter comes around again. After summer's mercurial heat, the hollow chills of autumn have begun to settle in as the cheerful sky looks already pale and brimful with hard-edged easterlies hanging on the shoulder of the flagging fall, ready to wreak havoc on stiffened limbs, too tired to limber up in readiness for winter's coming fresh assaults. And when I see you there, looking frail in your weakened situation, mumbling, struggling to mouth the words, I wonder if I will ever see you one more time again, come the following spring. Thirdly, last days. I can't not but admit that in those last chance encounters, I felt a tragic sense of dread, seeing your thinning features that could easily fit a coat hanger, your once exuberant voice and manner reduced to a stoic whisper, struggling against the ugly evidence on display of your physical tribulations, disfiguring your fragile body, but never once did I hear you moan or complain, though you would have been justified, and I only hope I was discreet enough to act as if things were at least semi-normal, avoiding any mention that would remind you of your condition, as if you could not have been aware, avoiding my morbid gaze, falling on that vile blemish, sucking the life from you, and all I can do now in compensation of your passing is to remember you as you were in the prime, your irrepressible, irreverent humour that we both shared, sitting there rocking on our stools in Cafe Nero and trying to forget you are no longer here. And the final one in this quartet. Before the darkness sets in, for Tim Leonard. Even stars eventually lose their shine and let the light go out. Some fade away over eons, reduced to dwarfish dimensions, while others bloviate, puffing out their swollen chests, swallowing up all the spaces in between. But the best of them radiates the brightest, departing the stage in a mighty supernova flare, lighting up the sky even in the borrowed robes of daylight, before they are reduced to darkness, before the void comes flooding in, but in their wake they leave behind them streams of cosmic rays, where once a heart had beaten, where once a conscious mind had brimmed with seas of beatific grace, leaving behind a world blessed by memories shared in their name. And I'll just finish off with a very short one, if I may. Excuse me. One written about 6 years ago when I was in Thailand, which is when I was staying in a hotel in, excuse me, in Chiang Rai. And I was looking for this place. It's called the Blue Temple. And it was on the other side of the river. And I was trying to find the river and the bridge to cross over to it. And I remember getting lost in this sort of labyrinthine array of lanes and things coming across this lovely little coffee shop called the Melt in Your Mouth Cafe, and then finding a river. And suddenly I got this idea down to the river. So I went down to the river again today. It must be at least 10 times now so far on my travels in the land of Thai. I went down to the river again, but not to die. I will leave that for another day. So I'll leave you on that note, and thank you all for listening and being patient. Bless you.
Bless you, and thank you so much, Ian. Wow, I'm leaving the recording running while we comment, and it's hard to even begin to to share my reaction to what you do, and I'll start with just a couple of quotes, and then from Between the Lions, way back at the beginning of your reading, the birds did not sing today, and I sensed an empty space left unfulfilled. But in my mind, I hear them still, faded memory now. And it's just exquisite, absolutely phenomenal. And I love your At the Stone Circle. Standing by the stone circle where James Boswell had once stood, there seems a false sense of time passing. No plaques mark the occasion, no inscribed foundation stone. Uh, just I'm beyond words about my reaction. I hope you send me the packet, please, of what you read, so I can savor it quietly, and
Oh,
uh,
well,
that would be great. So let's open our mics and applaud or talk or give some form of show of appreciation to Ian.
Bravo,
Fantastic.
sir. Bravo.
Yeah, fantastic, brilliant body of work. I enjoy you each time I hear your work, and I never tire of it, and I want to hear more. And I almost had to grab my tissue box when you pay tribute to your friend. That was
Mm.
beautiful.
Mm-hmm.
You have courage, poets have to have courage, and Ian's not afraid to go there. And he's lucky that he's British because he has gifts just by birthright. First of all, his diction. I love to hear
we
him
always
read.
play the evil ones in the Hollywood blockbusters.
All I watch is detective stories, but the images that you use are just beautiful, and carry us, and you allow us to experience, which is what poetry is about, our own. Like lots of thoughts come to me as you were reading different I loved the thing with the Siamese cat standing guard, and then when all the work was done, it left. I thought that was, it just reaches us in places you don't even have the language for it, but you have a beautiful sense of language and imagery, and yeah, I always feel enriched by your poetry.
Wow, that's beautiful, Tom. Thank you, great.
Work, Ian. Really enjoyed it.
Thank you, Marilee. Yeah, I mean, it was one of those sets where I knew I was going to get a bit emotional, and I was, sort of trying really hard to hold it together. So, I hope that you kind of, yeah, I'm so, yeah, pleased people appreciate that. And again, it's been quite a tough year for all of us, I think, with what's gone on with, people, close ones we've lost,
Mm,
and
mm.
those
Yes.
wonderful people. But I felt when I was writing those poems again, and this is the thing, is well, maybe in a selfish way, I felt certain sort of like a cathartic process going through. And I know a lot of people don't have that, so they hold it in, they can't release that pressure. I think that you can feel, but I think poetry for me, particularly since I joined coming into this group, with the spoken word group about 4 or 5 years back, has kind of enriched me and given me that freedom to develop and write. And yeah, how I would have coped without it, I don't know. But I
Mm,
think we're all blessed in a way, having that facility and ability to let things, process things through language, through our poetry, and
mm.
listening to the people before me. Again, apologies for being late. I was Teresa. I didn't realize until Teresa messaged me, but I
I
thought
said
she couldn't
I
get
thought it
into it.
was a little too long. I said, "Where the heck is
I
he?"
thought she was asking me to give her the link to get in. And I said, "Oh, you're supposed to be there." I said, "What?" I read it.
Oh,
What,
right,
really?
because we had the time change on
Yeah, they
Sunday.
started without me. How impolite.
Oh
Well,
my God.
well, it
Oh
worked out.
God.
It
I'm
worked out
glad.
well.
Yeah, so pleased to be here. So pleased to be here. Yeah, thank
Yeah,
you all.
I think what you mentioned though, Ian, it's like your insignia of your poetry is you're very transparent. Like you trust people and you say what you mean, and that's the only thing that helps us as as the listener.
I try to disguise it as much as possible. Obviously, I'm
Ian,
so
that was
shallow and
Ian. You were
transparent that
brilliant.
Teresa sees right through me.
Brilliant
Ian,
indeed.
thanks for that presentation. It was really great, and also we are
Thank you,
so
Doctor.
fortunate to have you as an integral part of our community of global locals. So thank you for that too.
It's a blessing. Thank you, Roger. Thank you.
Totally.
Brilliant as
Right.
ever, Ian. Thank you.
Thank you, Leslie. Nice I didn't know, but no, I was looking at who's here tonight, and glad I was so pleased to see that you were there because when I was reading the poetry, I was completely oblivious to who was there, whatever, and reactions and things like that. I was just, trying to read, without breaking down and getting the tissues out. But I recommend you watch that film, Departures. It's a very moving film. Warning, you will need a box of tissues.
I'm afraid I didn't know the time changed either, so I came in late.
Okay,
Oh, yeah,
that's fine. Yeah, I should have alerted people to that. I realized it's a different weekend that we do the time
yeah.
change. So
Well, fortunately, we are a bit tardy in things American, so we're late to turn up, to bombing Iran, which is maybe a good
good.
thing at the moment on a slightly darker note. So,
Right.
Right.
Well,
Wow.
the good thing about me being a part of three cultures is I get to celebrate 3 Mother's Days.
That's great. That's
how
great.
do you hold that? How do you hold it together? Multifaceted personality.
But they're all different days.
Right. Nice. So
Yeah.
anyone else want to comment before we start the second round? It's just a fabulous, profound feature. Uh,
I
whoever
was
else would like to.
I was telling Ian earlier today that the poetry that he reads always reminds me of a classic poet in the late 19th century whose elegant language, whose deep thought always shares some beautiful part that's both introspective and a detached observer of the times. I always find his work just very, very engaging. And I thank
Well,
him for it, and I'll thank him again. Thank you, brother.
Thank you.
well said.
Absolutely.
Thank you, Rick. Yeah.
Absolutely. Very well said. Uh, one of the dream I never said this before, but in one dream I had, it was you who said, you know, raise lyricism to the point of pure transcendence. And
Oh,
that kind of encapsulates your work. Raise lyricism to the point of pure transcendence. And that's
I
something
said
that you
that.
really do. In a
I
dream,
said that.
yeah.
Oh,
In
there's
the
a, yeah.
dream,
you appeared
Only
in
in a
a
dream.
dream.
Okay.
your dream self, Ian.
I'll put
I
the
must.
quote
I
in the
must. I
chat.
must stop getting.
I want to
It's
know if
gonna be.
I ever show up in your dreams. I want to know.
Oh my word. Okay. Thank you so much, Ian. I'll get the recording stopped now.
Lovely.
One sec.